Don't embarrass us today." Those were the last words my father said to me before we walked into the auditorium. Not good luck, not we're proud of you, just a warning. A reminder of what I'd always been to them, a risk, a liability, someone who might ruin their perfect image. I remember standing there in my cap and gown, looking at him. He didn't even meet my eyes. He was scanning the room, checking who was watching, making sure we looked like the perfect family. My mother adjusted her necklace. My brother Marcus fixed his cufflinks. Everyone was ready for their performance, and I was just trying not to break, because in 30 minutes, everything was going to change, but they didn't know that yet. They had no idea what was coming, and I wasn't going to warn them. After all, they never warned me. Let me take you back. Let me show you how we got here. I grew up in a house where love was conditional, where acceptance came with terms and conditions. My parents didn't say it out loud, but I always knew I was never quite enough. Marcus was the golden child. Firstborn, charismatic, everything he touched turned to gold, or at least that's what they believed. He played football in high school. He dated the popular girls. He made my parents proud just by existing, and me? I was quieter. I liked books more than parties. I asked too many questions. I challenged things. I made them uncomfortable. When I was 12, I won the regional science fair. I worked on that project for months. I barely slept. I tested and retested everything. When they announced my name as the winner, I looked into the audience. My mom was on her phone. My dad was talking to someone. Marcus wasn't even there. On the drive home, my father said, "That's nice, sweetheart. Did you remember to thank the judges?" That was it. That was all I got. 2 weeks later, Marcus scored a touchdown in a freshman game. My parents threw him a party. They invited everyone. They posted about it on social media. They glowed with pride. I learned something that day. I learned that some children are born to be celebrated, and others are born to be managed. The pattern continued for years. I made honor roll every semester. Marcus barely passed. But when report cards came, my father would look at mine and say, "Good, keep it up." Then he'd look at Marcus's and say, "Hey, you tried your best, son, that's what matters." I applied to colleges. I wrote essays late into the night. I rewrote them. I studied for the SATs until my eyes burned. I got into 7 schools. Good schools, schools with scholarships. My mother said, "Well, you always were the academic type," like it was a limitation, like it was something small. Marcus got recruited for football at a state school. My parents cried. They hugged him. They called everyone they knew. They bought him a new car as a congratulations gift. I got a card. It said, "Proud of you." It wasn't even signed. But I kept going. I kept working because deep down, I thought if I just did enough, if I just achieved enough, they'd finally see me. They'd finally be proud. I was so naive. College was where I found myself. Away from home. Away from the comparisons. Away from the weight of never being enough. I thrived. I double majored in business and economics. I joined investment clubs. I networked. I attended every seminar, every workshop, every lecture that mattered. I wasn't just learning, I was building something. In my junior year, I landed an internship at Sterling and Hayes. It was one of the top investment firms in the country. 500 million in assets, clients that shaped industries. It was the kind of place people dreamed about. Most interns fetched coffee and made copies. I didn't. I studied every case. I asked questions. I stayed late. I showed them I wasn't there to watch. I was there to learn, to contribute, to prove myself. By the end of that summer, the senior partners knew my name. They started pulling me into meetings, asking my opinion, testing me. One of them, Margaret Chen, told me something I'll never forget. "You have something most people don't," she said. "You're not afraid to be underestimated, you use it." That's rare. She was right. I had been underestimated my whole life. I knew how to work in the shadows. I knew how to let people overlook me while I outworked them. When I went back to school that fall, Margaret called me. She offered me a position after graduation. Not an entry-level analyst role, something more. She wouldn't say what yet, but she told me to keep it quiet. "Big things take time," she said. "Trust the process." So I did. I kept working. I kept my head down, and I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends, not my roommate, and definitely not my family. 6 months before graduation, I went home for Thanksgiving. Marcus was there with his girlfriend, Brooke. She was sweet, polite. She laughed at all his jokes. My parents loved her. We sat around the table, and my mother asked Marcus about his job. He worked in sales at a medical supply company. It was fine. A decent job. He made okay money. But the way my parents talked about it, you'd think he was running a Fortune 500 company. Marcus closed 3 big accounts this quarter, my father said, beaming. 3, that's my boy, Marcus grinned. Just doing what I do, Dad. They toasted him, they celebrated, they asked him questions about his clients, his strategy, his goals. Then my mother turned to me. And how's school, honey? Good, I said. I'm finishing my thesis, and I have some opportunities lined up after graduation. That's nice, she said, then she turned back to Marcus. So, Brooke, have you two thought about the future? Any big plans? That was it, that was all I got. A polite acknowledgement before they moved on to something that mattered more. I sat there, fork in hand, staring at my plate, and I realized something. It didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter what I achieved. I was never going to be the child they celebrated. I was never going to be enough, but I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just tired. The months leading up to graduation were a blur. I finished my thesis. I graduated summa cum laude. I was invited to speak at the ceremony as the student commencement speaker. It was an honor. Out of thousands of students, they chose me. When I told my parents, my mother said, "Oh, that's wonderful. Will it be a long speech? Your father has a meeting on Monday." Not congratulations, not we're so proud, just logistics. Meanwhile, Margaret called me 2 weeks before graduation. She told me the news. The partners had voted. They were offering me a junior partnership at 22. I would be the youngest partner in the firm's history. I couldn't breathe. I asked her to repeat it. She laughed. "You earned this," she said. "We're announcing it at your graduation. The firm is sponsoring the ceremony. I'll be there to present it. It's going to be a big moment." I thanked her. I hung up and I sat in silence. I thought about telling my parents. I thought about calling them and sharing the news. But then I remembered every dismissive comment, every time they overlooked me, every time they made me feel small. And I decided to let them find out with everyone else. Graduation morning felt surreal. My parents arrived early. My mother wore a cream-colored dress. My father wore a suit. Marcus came too. With Brooke. They all looked picture perfect. We met outside the auditorium. My mother hugged me. It was brief, polite. "You look nice," she said. "Are you nervous about your speech?" "A little," I said. My father checked his watch. "Just keep it short and sweet. No one likes a long-winded speech." Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. "You got this, sis, just don't overthink it." I nodded. I smiled. I played my part. Then my father leaned in close. His voice was low, serious. "Don't embarrass us today." I looked at him. He wasn't joking. He wasn't being sarcastic. He meant it. In his mind, I was still a risk, still someone who might say the wrong thing or do something that reflected poorly on them. Even on my graduation day, I was a liability. "I won't," I said quietly. He nodded, satisfied. Then he walked ahead with my mother, greeting people, shaking hands, playing the role of proud parents. And I stood there alone in my cap and gown, holding everything I'd worked for, everything I'd achieved, and they had no idea. The auditorium was packed, families filled the seats, graduates lined the aisles. The energy was electric. Excitement, relief, pride. I sat in the front row with the other honors students. My hands were shaking, not from nerves about my speech, but from what was coming after. The dean gave his opening remarks. Then the valedictorian spoke. Then it was my turn. I walked up to the podium. I looked out at the sea of faces. I found my parents in the crowd. They were sitting near the back. My mother was smiling. My father was checking his phone. Marcus was whispering something to Brooke. I took a breath and I began. I talked about resilience. About working in silence. About being underestimated and using it as fuel. I talked about the people who doubted us and the power of proving them wrong. Not with anger, but with results. The audience listened. Some nodded. Some clapped. I kept my voice steady. And then I finished. I thanked everyone. I stepped back from the podium. The applause was warm, genuine. I walked back to my seat. My heart was pounding, because I knew what was next. The dean returned to the stage. He smiled. "Before we continue," he said, "we have a very special announcement." The room quieted. People shifted in their seats. This year, our ceremony is proudly sponsored by Sterling and Hayes, one of the nation's leading investment firms, and today, they're here to recognize one of our graduates for an extraordinary achievement. My chest tightened. Margaret Chen walked onto the stage. Poised, elegant, powerful, she took the microphone. "Thank you," she said. "It's an honor to be here. At Sterling and Hayes, we pride ourselves on identifying exceptional talent. Individuals who don't just meet expectations, but redefine them." I could feel eyes turning toward me. Whispers started. "This year, we are proud to announce the appointment of our youngest junior partner in the firm's history. Someone who has demonstrated not only remarkable skill, but vision, discipline, and integrity." My mother's face appeared in my peripheral vision. She was leaning forward, confused. "Please join me in congratulating our newest partner, and your fellow graduate." She paused. The room held its breath. "Miss Elena Cartwright." The applause erupted. It was deafening. I stood. My legs felt weak. I walked to the stage. Margaret shook my hand. She handed me a plaque. She leaned in and whispered, "You deserve this." I looked out at the crowd, at the hundreds of people clapping, at the cameras flashing. And then I found my family. My mother's mouth was open, frozen. My father's face was pale. Marcus looked stunned. They hadn't known. They hadn't even suspected, because I was just the quiet one. The one who didn't matter. After the ceremony, people swarmed me, professors, classmates, strangers. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, to congratulate me, to take photos. My parents pushed through the crowd. My mother reached me first. "Elena," she said, her voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell us?" "I wanted it to be a surprise," I said calmly. "A surprise?" My father's voice was tight. This is huge. Do you know what this means?" "Yes," I said. "I do." He looked around. People were watching. He forced a smile. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart." The words felt hollow, empty. Marcus stepped forward. "Congrats, sis. That's incredible. Thank you," I said. My mother grabbed my arm. "We need to talk privately later," I said. "I have people to meet." I turned and walked toward Margaret, who was speaking with the dean. My parents stood there, surrounded by people who now saw them differently. Because suddenly, I wasn't the overlooked child. I was the successful one, the one who mattered, and they had no idea how to handle it. At the reception, everything shifted. People who used to talk to my father now wanted to talk to me. Business contacts, alumni, donors, they asked about my plans, my goals, my strategy. My parents stood on the sidelines, watching, trying to insert themselves into conversations. But it didn't work, because this wasn't about them. This was about me. At one point, my father pulled me aside. "Elena, we need to discuss this. You should have told us. We're your family." "I know," I said. "But I didn't think you'd care." His face hardened. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I looked at him, really looked at him. "When have you ever celebrated me? When have you ever made me feel like I mattered?" He didn't answer. "You told me not to embarrass you today," I said quietly. "But you've been embarrassed by me my whole life." "That's not true." "It is. And you know it." I walked away. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just left him standing there. In the weeks after graduation, things fell apart for them. Word spread. Articles were written about my appointment. I was featured in business journals. LinkedIn posts went viral. People talked. And my parents' social circle noticed. Suddenly, they were the parents of the youngest partner at Sterling and Hayes. Not the parents of the football star. The parents of me. At a country club event, someone asked my father, "How does it feel to have raised such an accomplished daughter?" He smiled tightly. "We're very proud. You must have always known she was special." He didn't answer, because he'd never seen it. And now everyone else did. My mother called me one evening. Her voice was strained. "People keep asking about you," she said. "They want to know how we supported you, what we did, and what do you tell them?" I asked. "Silence. You can tell them the truth," I said, "that I did it on my own." She hung up. Months later, I was invited to speak at a corporate leadership summit. It was a big event, high-profile attendees. My parents asked if they could come. I said yes. They sat in the audience, front row. My mother wore pearls. My father wore his best suit. They looked proud. They looked like they'd always been proud. I gave my speech. I talked about resilience, about working without recognition, about building something for yourself, not for validation. And when I finished, the applause was thunderous. Afterward, my mother hugged me. "You were incredible, thank you," I said. My father shook my hand. "We always knew you'd do great things." I looked at him. I saw the desperation in his eyes, the need to rewrite history, to pretend they'd been supportive all along, and I let him have it, because I didn't need to fight anymore. I didn't need to prove anything. I had already won. Not by making them see me, but by seeing myself. I don't talk to my parents much anymore, not because I hate them, but because I've built a life they're not part of. They text sometimes. They ask how I'm doing. They send articles about me. They tell their friends about my success, and I'm polite. I'm kind, but I don't need their approval anymore, because I learned something. That day in the auditorium, the people who overlook you don't get to celebrate you, the people who made you feel small don't get to stand in your light, and the people who told you not to embarrass them don't get to take credit when you shined. My name is Elena Cartwright. I'm the youngest partner at a $500 million firm, and I got here on my own.